On Overdrive today, we find out whether the Citroen C3 Aircross SUV is a strong contender in the mid-size SUV space, and Mercedes' best-selling SUV is back with new tech and a bigger price tag. Hello and welcome to Overdrive. I am Sony. That's Citroen's new mid-size SUV based on the C3 platform is called the C3 Aircross, and it promises to offer better value than its more established rivals like the Kia Carens and even the Hyundai Creta. But does it deliver on that promise? Let's find out.
You remember how when the C3 hatchback came out, they kept insisting that it is not any of those mini or micro SUVs. And the reason for that is this, the C3 Aircross. This is their proper SUV. Now it doesn't have all-wheel drive capabilities or 4x4, but you can see the kind of stuff that it is doing. You can see the approach and departure angles that it has, what it can do with all of that. You can see the ground clearance, how it's putting that to use over stuff like this. Of course, you and I are not going to be doing this every day, but this one is testimony to the fact that this car can handle poor roads, your leisurely drives to trails and off-road sections, etc., and do all of that quite easily, despite the hardware looking so basic on paper.
Forget any references I made to the C3 Aircross in my Suzuki Fronx review, because this one takes on the mid-size SUV segment. Measuring 4.3 meters in length, it's a fairly large car than its hatchback counterpart. It has an impressive ground clearance of 200 millimeters, some decent approach and departure angles, and a choice of 5 or 7 seats, helping it take on the likes of both the Creta and the Carens. That said, the front three-quarter is the prettiest angle for the car, where you can see the contouring of the gloss black grille, the customizable squared appliques in the bumper, the pronounced creases and the handsome alloy wheels, which remind me of the erstwhile Mercedes-Benz CLA.
The design of the wheels looks even better when the vehicle is on the move, and when standing still, I think these wheels fill up the wheel arches quite well. In terms of these rub rails, on the rear door, they don't extend all the way back, so they are not really going to solve the purpose in case you open the door in a tight parking spot. But overall, I think the side profile is a nice design. But that said, it does look a bit MPV-ish, and you can blame that to the flat rear end or the upright C-pillar.
The tailgate has some interesting touches, like the horizontal applique that highlights the width and the sculpted boot lid and bumper, which adds sophistication.
You know what? The third row of seating is actually removable on this car. And when you do pop the boot, it reveals a 444 litre of boot space for the 5-seater variant. And should you choose the 7-seater variant and remove those seats like I did, then you get 511 litres of boot space. However, if you necessarily need 3 rows of seating and a decent boot space, I think you're better off with the Kia Carens. Because with the third row up, all you get is a mere 44 litres of storage capacity, which is, I think, not even good enough for a backpack. And removing the seats is very simple. All you need to do is just drop the seat, pull this tab right here, and the seat comes off. And it's not too heavy either. You just need to get the seatbelt mechanism undone, and you are done. As simple as that. But even though these seats are removable, you can't just buy a 5-seater Citroen C3 Aircross right now and then just buy these 2 seats and add them in later. These aren't retrofittable in that sense, because it runs a slightly different setup in the boot. The measurements are slightly different for the 7-seater versus the 5-seater. So that is a bit of a missed opportunity. I think if that flexibility was given, that would have been nice too. So you'll have to pick wisely when you're buying the car. Do you need 5 or 7? In terms of the design, the dashboard, etc., it will again remind you of the C3 because it is based on the C3 platform. So you get a similar 10.2-inch screen. It's got a slightly different color scheme for the skin, but the rest of the elements remain the same. Similarly, you get a different color skin for the different inlay panels. What we've seen on the C3 has a slightly different texture, slightly different colors. Here you get an option of 2 colors. There's this bronze, there's also a gray option that you get depending on the variant that you choose. What you do get differently, however, is the instrumentation cluster. It is fully digital. The colors used are actually quite subtle. The instrument is very easy to read. One missed opportunity, however, is that they should have now dropped in the climate control, which has been given the miss for the C3 Aircross. However, because this is a longer car, what you also get is roof-mounted AC vents for the rear seat passengers.
The 5-seater variant misses out on these roof-mounted AC vents.
Now, as for the seating, the knee space, the knee room, excellent. Foot space is also excellent. The front seat is set all the way back, not just to my driving preference, but all the way back, and still there is enough knee room. Now, why I've set this all the way back is because now this is a 3-row configuration, which means you get relatively lesser space in the second row compared to the 5-seater configuration. And even then, the space is actually quite good. Headroom is excellent too, and visibility outside of the windows also quite nice. As for the backrest, you do get certain degree of recline adjustability too. So long distance comfort is not going to be a problem at all. And what I really like is the height of the backrest. I mean, just look at that. I'm 5'8" and there is still so much more space left. So even for someone taller, there's going to be enough shoulder room and enough shoulder comfort as well. That's a very thoughtful design. You also get adjustable headrest for both the passengers that are sitting on the either ends, but you get really tiny space in between and a little squab as a headrest for the center passenger. So this space is only good enough and safe for 2 adults and a kid.
The third row is for those who need it in a crunch though, which is why Citroen is calling this a 5+2 and not a proper 7-seater.
Not the best of places to be in, certainly not very comfortable, because like we saw, the third row seats are mounted on the floor, so you don't really get much space. You sit in a very knees up position. So this space not really great for adults, not great for teenagers either, only for little kids. For short distances, maybe under 50 kilometers, should be fine.
In my opinion, the 5+2 offers the best versatility, and the additional features make it a more compelling buy, unless Citroen puts a ridiculous price gap between the two.
The Citroen C3 Aircross has stepped into the ring, which has heavyweights like the Hyundai Creta, Kia Seltos and even the newly launched Toyota Hyryder. But just how much of a difference can it make with its 1.2-litre turbo petrol engine? Let's find out after this very short break. Welcome back, you're watching Overdrive. Now, the Citroen C3 Aircross promises us an ARAI claim mileage of 18.5 kilometers to the litre, and that is thanks to the 1.2-litre turbo petrol engine. But how does this car feel like to drive on Indian roads? Let's find out.
The engine comes to life quite silently. It just tells you that the start and stop system is off when you begin. That's the only error that you could hear right now. And then you're off. Getting off the mark is nice and clean. The clutch needs a little getting used to. It's not too light, it's not too heavy, but it is a bit springy. The gear shifter has nice and short throws, so it's very easy to get used to it, so that shouldn't be a problem at all. And in terms of the visibility outside of the windscreen, excellent visibility. You're sitting fairly high up compared to the C3 hatchback. You get that commanding view of the road that you want from an SUV. So even there, a lot of people are going to feel right at home. You can see both the corners of the bonnet, so getting a judgment of the front end of the car, even in tight spaces like these, is not a problem at all. The rear view mirrors are again nice and wide, and you can see the buttresses of the car. So again, getting a judgment of the rear of the car is no problem either. The manual gearbox is the only option that you get with the C3 Aircross. In fact, you get only one engine option as well. This is the 1.2-litre turbocharged engine from the Citroen Group. Now, in terms of the engine tuning, especially for the city, we are driving here in Pondicherry. If you've been here, you will know crazy traffic, narrow lanes. You will have to work the gearbox every now and then, right? That is what you feel. But here, you can easily amble around town in second and third gear. You don't really have to keep shifting too much because the turbocharging is tuned quite well for our city conditions. At highway speeds, the cabin does get a bit noisy. There is not too much wind noise, but you can hear a lot of the road noises, and even the engine noise, the powertrain noises creep into the cabin quite a bit. And this isn't a very nice sounding engine in that sense. So yes, it can become quite a noisy cabin.
A 110 PS 1.2-litre petrol engine sounds average on paper, but the 190 Newton meters of torque thanks to the turbocharging ensures excellent tractability in the city and a punchy performance on the highway or around the bends, even with 4 people on board. You will seldom feel the need of revving over 3,500 RPM. That said, fuel economy seems concerning though, with our highway run returning a mere 12 kilometers to a litre and city drives hinting a single-digit figure. A road test in our standard test conditions will reveal a clearer picture though.
Despite the ride quality of the car being so good, the handling dynamics are surprisingly good. The car is long, it's bigger than a Creta, it shows its length, the wheelbase is really long, so stability overall is quite nice. High-speed stability on the highway, lane changes, etc. is quite nice. But it does make you feel that probably it will not corner that well. And then when you actually drive it around tight winding roads like we are driving on the Chennai-Pondicherry road, the ECR, it is unbelievably good. The steering does weigh up quite well at highway speeds, but it does still feel a little vague. It doesn't feel very precise. So that is definitely going to need a little getting used to. The braking response is also quite good. It feels nice and progressive. The pedal feel is quite nice. So nothing unnerving there. Even with a full house, it drops the anchor quite authoritatively. So that's good news.
The C3 Aircross is surprisingly good then at space management and the mechanical performance. But like the creature comforts, even the safety features are scanty. And the safety of the third row occupants is questionable too.
Safety is where it takes a back seat. A third row seat in fact. Because all you get is just 2 airbags. And there is absolutely nothing else worth really talking about. And looking at the kind of safety ratings that the C3 has got, I don't have high hopes from the C3 Aircross either. Apart from better safety tech, Citroen should have also done better headlights. We've seen it on the C3 and the EC3 that these halogen lamps aren't really adequate, certainly not for Indian conditions, for Indian road conditions. They should have gone with better headlamp options, at least on the top spec trims. Let us sum this up then. The Citroen C3 Aircross certainly doesn't feel as low cost as the C3 hatchback. But that also has me worried. Now, they've done a much better job in terms of the fit and finish, though it is based on the same platform. It does share quite a few components. It still manages to feel a little bit more premium. But I hope in terms of the actual pricing, it doesn't command a very big premium over the C3 hatch. Yes, it is a bigger car. Yes, it is offering a more versatile seating. It's offering a lot more space. It is making the turbocharged engine a standard fit. But then again, you only get a manual. You do not get cruise control, you do not get automatic climate control, you do not get LED headlights, projector beam lamps, etc. etc. There's a lot that it leaves you wanting for. However, from where I am sitting, it shouldn't cost anywhere more than 9 to 14 lakh rupees ex-showroom, all variants included. So I hope that Citroen doesn't get too greedy. I hope they are able to price this well. I hope they are even able to achieve that price advantage and not just talk about the value gain here. If they manage to do that, the C3 Aircross could very well become the best seller for them at the moment.
Bookings for the Citroen C3 Aircross will start in September with deliveries expected in October. We'll bring you all the details from the launch floor as well. We'll take a very quick break here on the show, but coming up on the other side, we'll tell you all about the updated Mercedes-Benz GLC. Welcome back. You're watching Overdrive. Mercedes-Benz best-selling SUV, the GLC, is back in a new avatar but with a heftier price tag. It is priced at 73.5 lakh rupees for the 300 variant, going up to 74.5 lakh rupees for the 220D variant. But is the second generation model really a worthy upgrade? Let's find out.
Even in today's times, when crossovers and SUVs are practically taking on every segment, but when it comes to premium SUVs, the Mercedes-Benz GLC has been the bestseller, not just for Mercedes-Benz India, but in the segment as a whole. And now there is a new one, and it could actually be the nightmare that the competition was always expecting.
Mercedes-Benz haven't messed up with the much-loved silhouette or the design of the outgoing car. It is 60mm longer, sits slightly shorter, and looks a tad bit leaner than before. The taillights with their 3D detailing are sleeker, and the headlights now flow into the grille. This, coupled with the multi-reflector headlights instead of the projector beams, lends the new GLC a more docile front end. But if you want to announce to the world that you are driving the star, there is a humongous Mercedes-Benz logo taking center stage on the face. The new GLC has a 15mm longer wheelbase, which has allowed for 70 liters of extra boot space as well.
The loading lip, it's quite low and it's flat, which means loading of the luggage and simply pulling it out is absolutely easy. Furthermore, you can also drop the 40-20-40 seats using this switch right here, but you have to pick it up manually, and when you do use this switch, the front seat automatically goes in the front to accommodate this entire operation. The sideboard could be of use to smaller passengers. The doors open nice and wide, and ingress and egress is absolutely easy, just the way you would expect in a crossover or SUV. Once inside, you will notice the improved legroom that you get inside the car. It's almost as much as the older standard wheelbase E-Class. I'm not kidding, that's the kind of space that you get. And despite the slightly shorter height of the car, the headroom is actually not compromised at all, and even the visibility outside of the windows is excellent. Now, the space at the rear is wide enough to accommodate 3 lean adults, but you see, even the new GLC continues to be predominantly a rear-wheel driven car, so you still get this fat transmission tunnel. Add to that the bulge for the center armrest, and the third passenger, or the third adult at least, is not going to be that comfortable. The cabin has a very airy feel to it, whether you go with the tan upholstery, the beige or the all black. There's the large glass house and the panoramic sunroof too. The AC vents, the dashboard, the overall layout of the dashboard, the components and the infotainment screen, it's all inspired by the C-Class as you'd expect. And this is easily the more intuitive screen compared to what the competition offers in the Q5 or the X3, and that's including the new iDrive 8 system, which will eventually make its way to an all-new X3. That is still not going to be as intuitive as this. This is absolutely easy to use. It is complemented by a fully digital, customizable instrumentation. New hybrid powertrains are a big talking point for the GLC globally, but the inflated cost of an engine plus batteries plus that hybrid powertrain, it's just a little too much, which is why Mercedes-Benz India has followed a similar path that was taken for the C-Class as well, which means that you only get mild hybrid tech with the GLC as well. But unlike the small displacement petrol in the C-Class, the GLC goes with a significantly more powerful 258 PS 2-litre turbo petrol to complement its SUV intent. The diesel option comes in the form of the 200 PS 2-litre turbo diesel. The mild hybrid system improves the fuel economy of these engines by 15 and 10% respectively, while lowering their CO2 emissions as well. In fact, these are now 2 of the cleanest engines in the category. Both the engines also get a 23 PS boost from the integrated starter generator or the 48-volt mild hybrid system. And with that kind of assistance, both the engines are actually quite quick. The petrol, for example, goes from 0 to 100 in a little over 6 seconds. Now, these performance figures or power and torque figures are comparable to the Q5 petrol, and like the Q5, all-wheel drive is now standard across the range even for the GLC. So not only on the petrol but also on the diesel engine, which the Q5 doesn't get. And that 4MATIC all-wheel drive system also ensures that getting off the mark is very clean. Getting these 0 to 100 sprints, if you are in the mood, that is also in an optimum fashion. So you always get some really good starts and the power is put down cleanly to the road. And when you're not in that mood, the 4MATIC will act as a safety system by sending up to 45% of the power to the front wheels to aid traction and stability. And because 4MATIC is standard, you also get the off-road mode as standard. You don't have to buy an extra off-road mode or whatever. So that essentially will give you hill descent control. And when you're driving in the rough, it will also make sure that the power and torque is only fed to the wheels that have traction. so that you can get out of tricky situations or manage better traction on tricky surfaces.
The safety features are also enhanced now with ADAS functions.
So to sum it up, like the older GLC, the new one is also a safe bet and arguably an all-rounder. I use the word arguably because you see the exterior trimming could have been a little better. The lack of the ventilated seats or the massage seats or adaptive dampers, that is sorely missed. But then again, this is still a one-stop shop because unlike its competitors, it gives you the option of both a petrol and a diesel engine. It has the fairly green, mild hybrid tech. It's got a spacious and very comfortable cabin, just the way it should be in a Mercedes-Benz. And then it's got a very spacious boot as well. So for those with an active lifestyle and wanting to road trip, etc., there's a lot of space back there too. So if you've been waiting for over a year for the GLC, the bestseller is back.
Well, with that, it's a wrap on this week's edition of Overdrive. But remember, you can stay in touch with the team through Facebook, Twitter, as well as YouTube. And you can follow our latest updates on Instagram. We'll see you next week. Until then, drive and ride safe.